The Greg Kelly Show.
Well, this has been a day of injustice yet again. The latest thing, my God, Rudy Giuliani, greatest mayor this city ever saw, was just disbarred by the corrupt legal profession here in New York State. I can't believe this has happened. I mean, I can believe it because we've been going in this direction for a long time. Mayor Giuliani was aggressively advocating for his client, the President of the United States. You're allowed to do those things. You are allowed to shoot your mouth off in public. You are allowed to make your case. You are. I'm going through a 31-page decision that officially disbars Rudy Giuliani. That means he can't practice law. This had not happened before. His license had been suspended, but now he's formally disbarred. You know who gets disbarred? If you steal money from a client, all right, that'll get you disbarred. If you're conducting criminal acts like a conspiracy with your defendant who's in jail and getting him drugs, stuff like that, you don't get disbarred for political opinions about the election. You don't, and you shouldn't. But the way our toxic culture is working these days, oh, Rudy Giuliani, I saw him in an interview once. He was all bug-eyed. And of course, the election was the most fair in the history of America. Are you crazy? Are you crazy? You know, they say, well, he didn't have any evidence. He didn't have any evidence. Well, they didn't get to the point where he could get the evidence. You ever been sued? They've got something called, what do they call it? Discovery. So all lawsuits, all litigation, it basically starts maybe with a hunch, maybe with a well-informed hunch, but you sue somebody, you don't have all the evidence. You sue them to get the evidence. You have it, you think it in your gut, or somebody told you, or you just know you've been wronged. And now you want to prove that. How do you prove that? Well, if the judge just said to you, well, what evidence do you have? Well, I mean, I know he did it. You got to help me out here, judge. And you know what happens? The judge helps. Okay, you think this happened? Well, the plaintiff, the defendant, has to cooperate. We want to see the evidence that you got inside your computers. We want to see the evidence you've got in your filing cabinets, whatever, and let's take a look at it. And that never happened with Rudy Giuliani, never got to that point. You're allowed to say things about election workers. You are, especially if you are in a state hearing in Georgia. I don't know what the hell's so precious about being a state election worker. I don't even know what's so precious about our electoral system. It's a system can break like any other system, right? Systems are flawed. People can screw up. People can commit crimes. People can conceal. People lie. People do all kinds of things. Never got that far because the establishment decided everything was perfect with that election right off the bat. So they just kick Rudy Giuliani out of the legal profession, of which he was a master, total master. And I think it's a total, complete disgrace. Rudy Giuliani, if you're listening, I am telling you, you should wear this as a badge of honor, and that's what it is. This, you haven't gone wrong. The system went wrong. This whole demented society has gone wrong. Everything about it, everything. I'm looking at a column right here in the New York Times today that says, the First Amendment is out of control. The First Amendment is out of control. The person who writes this says there should be more censorship by big tech, right? Because people can't have, we can't handle the truth, or we can't figure it out for ourselves. Stay the hell out of it. The New York Times has gone demented. The government has gone demented. Regular people have gone demented. Have you seen this lady? I can't stand her. She's everywhere. The Haktua girl. What a degenerate. How old is she? 19, 20? And part of it isn't her fault. I mean, this is what we call the Pornhub generation, right? The Pornhub generation. Pornography, decadence, it's all over the place. College is now nothing more than 4 years of retrograde, 4 years of infantile behavior, with a lot of alcohol sprinkled in. It's just sick. All of it is sick and broken. Rudy Giuliani did nothing wrong, and especially when it comes to Pennsylvania. In Pennsylvania, oh, well, you went to the wrong address for the press conference. Ha, 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 ha. He went to the garden shop. Ha, 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 ha. Well, the thing about it was, the entire world decided if you want to stay on the good side of the powers that be, you got to drop this matter quick. You got to get on board the Biden train. And we weren't ready to do that. Rudy wasn't ready to do that. And, you know, you need people to help. You need staff. You need good lawyers. But lawyers are very timid people. Rudy's not a timid person, but a lot of lawyers are. Why do they become lawyers? For the job security. They'll have a license for the rest of their life. They'll have a license to make money for the rest of their life, right? So that appeals to a lot of people who are not terribly, they're not big risk takers. So, but Rudy is a risk taker, actually. He's bold, he's confident, he knows his stuff, and he'll go out there. He'll go all out. I just want to go back to Bill Barr. What was he talking about in August of 2020 as everybody was rearranging the election because of quote-unquote COVID? It seemed like as a matter of logic, Rudy Giuliani is safe and sound in everything he said about that election at this point. I can't vouch. Well, look, I can't vouch for everything Rudy said. I won't. But you're allowed to say things. What the hell happened to America? And I think Bill Barr was right. That obviously, if you change the rules, it's open to fraud and abuse. I think those are her exact words. Let me hear them.
We haven't seen widespread fraud, but
so far we haven't tried it.
Well,
and the point is,
but a lot of us. There are several states that only have mail-in voting, including a Republican
well,
state.
This is playing with fire. This is playing with fire. We're a very closely divided country here. And if people have to have confidence in the results of the election and the legitimacy of the government, and people trying to change the rules to this methodology, which, as a matter of logic, is very open to fraud and coercion, is reckless and dangerous, and the people are playing with fire.
Well, I will point out there are five states that
That's the poor part. Logic. As a matter of logic, it's very open to fraud and coercion. As a matter of logic. As a matter of logic. Oh, gosh. And so Rudy Giuliani makes that case, especially in Pennsylvania, where they illegally changed the voting procedures. Illegally. They did it without the Secretary of State's approval. Well, wait, I'm sorry. Secretary of State may have been in on it. If you want to change how you vote in Pennsylvania, you can do that, but you got to go through the legislature. And then you got to let the people have an up or down vote in a referendum. That's what you have to do. And I'm looking through this 31 page, and I can't find most of this stuff is stuff that he said in public. He wasn't under oath. And even if he was, I mean, he's advocating for his client. The reason why this is all happening is because Trump derangement syndrome. Everything Trump must be bad. The other thing that he really paid a heavy price for, and he shouldn't, but it's such an interesting moment in American history. He gave that press conference, not at the Lawn Center, but I think it was in Washington, D.C., might have been at the RNC. I was in a cab on my way to work, and I was listening to Rudy and some of the other attorneys, and I'm like, this is great. They're making the case about fraud in the election, and I think they're onto something. And I'm like, this is great. But I was in a cab, and I was listening to it on my phone. I actually had it on the radio, the old-fashioned radio. I love radio. So if you listened to it, you knew Rudy was hammering away on substance. He was just, wow, wow, wow. But our big, stupid fake news could focus on just one thing. Rudy was sweating. He had some, whatever that is, on the side of his face. Who cares? Well, our big, stupid, dumb media care. Look at that. Just a bunch of mean girls and boys from high school, right? Juvenile. They are not capable of deep thought. They have no memory. They are beholden to corporate interests. They're running scared all the time. That same group that laughed at Rudy Giuliani covered up for Joe Biden for the past 4 years. An invalid, an intellectual invalid, is the president of the United States. I've known that since day one. Have you been watching any of my videos over the years? Every day I'm like, what about this? Why aren't they talking? This happened. This actually happened. Let me see here. Cut 39, please. Cut 39.
That was never said. think there's a lesser chance now that Israel won't go in and into Gaza, and that can be averted?
Doesn't know much of anything. Cut 36.
And I've said before, and I apologize to repeat. Jake Sullivan. You know, Jake is my national security advisor. I'm leaving out a lot of people here. I apologize. I'm going to get in trouble. But anyway, we'll get back to that. But there's a lot that is happening.
Doesn't know what's happening. That's 2021. 3 years ago. 3 years ago. Joe is not in charge. Who's in charge? Some guy named Ron Klain. Another guy named Tom. Who's he? Tom Donnellan. Another guy named Ted Kaufman. Some girl named Valerie. Who are these people? We didn't vote for them. So right now, the Democrats are, oh boy, they're making noise, and more of them are coming out and saying it publicly. They're not exactly household name famous, but this is the cracking of the wall, the Berlin Wall around Joe Biden. Let's see here. Sheldon Whitehouse came out and said it was horrible the other night, looking at options going forward. A Congressman Alkenkloss. Sounds like a rich guy. Well, he is, but he actually served in the Marines. He's saying he's totally freaked out. Some congressman named Quigley. See, these congressmen are running for re-election. They don't want to be dragged down by Joe Biden. Personally, I want Joe to stay right where he is. Oh, wait a second. Biden is speaking after touring an emergency operations center. What the hell kind of, and this is one of those phony tours of some, because there's going to be a hurricane, right? He has not spoken to the people yet without a teleprompter since the debate. This is only his second public appearance. It's already Tuesday. The debate happened on Thursday. You ready? Go ahead.
Mayor, thanks for that introduction and joining me today at the D.C. Emergency Operations Center. I also want to thank the first responders who risk their lives every single day running into danger to save others while everyone's running away from danger. I'm here to talk about how we're preparing and responding to the dangerous impacts of extreme weather and the climate crisis that's affecting people all around America, all around the country, matter of fact, beyond around America. You know, summer has just started. Already, tens of millions of Americans are under heat warnings from record-shattering temperatures. Last month here in D.C., temperature at 100 degrees. In Phoenix, Arizona, 112 degrees. In Las Vegas, 111 degrees.
All right. What are you, the weatherman? He's looking at a teleprompter. Mike Woods does a better job. Mike Woods, my friend Mike Woods. He doesn't need the damn prompter to do the weather. There he is. His head's going back and forth as if presidents really have anything to do with this stuff. They don't. What's the name of this hurricane anyway? Hurricane Beryl. Teleprompter. Is that it? We want presidents who can read stuff written by somebody else. You know, when Joe Biden first ran for president, that was his whole solemn pledge. I won't be a president who will need a teleprompter. I'll speak to you from the heart. He's got no heart. Oh, man. I will say this. He is the best dressed guy around. He looks crisp. He's not crisp, but I think that shirt is brand new, and so is the suit. These guys, if you look closely, you know what we used to call them? A clothes horse. Hunter Biden going in and out of buildings with briefcases and feeling important, wearing $9,000 suits. How do they get it? How did they get it? It's a fascinating moment. They're trying to pretend everything is normal. Obviously, it's not. And the world could change even further within the next, I say by Monday. By Monday, we could have a new nominee, right? What do you think? Let me know. I don't care what his inner circle says. I don't care what his inner sanctum says. Nobody is ever like Joe Biden, even in the Democrat Party. Nobody owes him a damn thing. Nobody owes us. They've used him, and now his usefulness is up. Time is up. Guess what? Yesterday's Supreme Court decision, you know what it blows out of the water? I didn't fully realize it at first. That fake, phony documents case against him. Judge Merchan, Stormy Daniels, they just postponed the sentencing that was supposed to take place in about a week, next week. It's been postponed indefinitely. Another win, another beautiful, beautiful victory for the most resilient person I know, President Trump. Be right back.
Greg Kelly. is the Greg Kelly Show.
72% of Democrats think Joe Biden is not up to the job mentally. There is zero voter enthusiasm for Joe Biden. 63% of Joe Biden voters actually say they're not voting for Joe Biden. They're voting against Trump. Okay, let's see here. In New Hampshire, post-debate, a 7-point boost for Trump, a 5-point decline for Joe Biden. CNN has Donald Trump up nationally 6 points. 6 points over Joe Biden after everything he's gone through. God bless the American people. They see right through all those fake cases, every single one of them. Now, Joe Biden is he talking about help my administration, going to be there for you every step of the way? Still talking about this. He's actually giving people tips on how to handle heat stroke. I don't think Joe should be talking about stroke, okay? Just off of a teleprompter. One of his people trapped all the way back in the 1980s. Ooh, here's something interesting. All right, they're already polling a lot of prominent Democrats, how they would do against Donald Trump. And most of them are right in there, right around where it doesn't really matter, right? Let's see. They're testing Harris. Believe it or not, Harris is kind of within plus or minus 2 points of Joe Biden. So is Pete Buttigieg. So is Gretchen Whitmer. So is Gavin Newsom. Now, they're all terrible. The only person that is emerging, and I just saw this from a pretty credible source, who knows who Mark Kelly is? Mark Kelly, Republican senator from Arizona. Former astronaut. I like this guy. He's born and raised in New Jersey. But to get into the Senate, he had to adopt a bunch of crazy leftist, silly positions that he doesn't agree with. So, Mark, I like that you went to outer space. I like that you're a naval aviator. But if you don't come out right now and demand that Joe Biden step down, you're just as bad as the rest of them. These days of us being fooled by your military experience, or you did this or you did that, I'm only interested in experiences that can benefit the people. I mean, how could Mark Kelly going into outer space 7 years ago, how's that going to benefit anybody else but him? I mean, I know he did science experiments and that's great, but now he's just got some cool stories about outer space. And quite frankly, it's not like he went to the moon or anything like that, right? I mean, the shuttle astronauts, they're kind of like, first of all, there are like 5,000 of them at this point, and they all tell the same story, So anyway, nice try with Mark Kelly. Keep going. Keep trying.
You're listening to the Greg Kelly Show.
So we can't lose our scan here. There are other things going on. Jeffrey Epstein, major developments in the Jeffrey Epstein case. This guy was obviously a serial sexual predator who liked children. And law enforcement knew that for many, many years, yet he still was able to get this strange sweetheart deal where he did a few weekends of jail time in Palm Beach County. Very strange. It was like literally a tap on the wrist. And he went on to molest a lot more people, a lot more women and girls, and also do business with some of the most important and powerful people in America, even with this sex abuse conviction on his record. He's met with a CIA director. He was still meeting with Prince Andrew. He was meeting with George Stephanopoulos and on and on and on. But now we're going back in 2006. I guess one of the reasons why this guy wasn't held accountable, it looks to me like the grand jury blamed the victims in the harshest terms imaginable. We're joined now by Rick Bryant. He is a great journalist and author. Most recently, his book, which is a must-read for anybody interested in Watergate, and this is the definitive Watergate book, The Truth About Watergate, A Tale of Extraordinary Lies and Liars. Rick Bryant, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Good to be with you, Greg.
So what is going on here? I was speaking rather broadly, but tell us a little bit about these grand jury, this testimony we're seeing for the first time.
In 2006, there was a very corrupt grand jury, and it met, and grand juries are done in secrecy, and it had a very, very corrupt special prosecutor. And The law enforcement was aware of 22 victims, of underage victims of Epstein at that point, and the special prosecutor Barry Kirshner only called 2 of those victims, and what they did, they called these girls, and both of them had been 14 when they were molested, and one of them was 16 when she was testifying. They called them prostitutes and excoriated them. And actually grand jurors chimed in and said, you know what you did was wrong. I mean, they're asking this girl who was 14 years old when she was molested by Jeffrey Epstein. And they're saying there's no accountability for Jeffrey Epstein. They're putting the onus of Jeffrey Epstein's molestation solely on these young girls.
So, all right, let's just talk about, let's just address it for a moment. I understand they were underage. That's horrible. First of all, actually, I never knew that grand jurors could just break in and ask questions. I guess I kind of remember that from the movie, but it's not just about the prosecutors. The jurors these are jurors who are chiming in with their own rather pointed questions. Hey, this was wrong. You were taking money. You knew it was wrong, right? Those are regular people asking those questions.
Well, the grand jury system is extremely flawed, and there's only 2 countries that still have it, the United States and Liberia. The grand juries are notoriously easy to corrupt. All you have to do is find a special prosecutor that's corrupt, and then grand jurors are just people that have shown up for grand jury duty, and they've been funneled to a grand jury. And only the evidence that the special prosecutor shows the grand jurors, and only the people that he calls to testify, he is in a remarkable spot to just bend the ideas of these grand jurors. And with this grand jury, grand jurors can ask questions. But what happened in this grand jury is these poor girls were skewered by Barry Kirshner and his assistant, and then the grand jurors just picked up on that and started to skewer the girls themselves. So
they're just 14. These 2 girls in the grand jury, right?
They were 14 when they were molested by Epstein, and they were still teenagers when they were called before this grand jury a couple of years later.
So, all right. I mean, we know that rich, powerful people can hire every great lawyer in town and intimidate prosecutors and law enforcement. I mean, some of this is not new, right? I guess it's just baked into the system. It's terrible, but right?
Well, I wrote a book about a child trafficking network that was much like Epstein's, and that grand jury was very, very corrupt. I got the testimony from that grand jury, and this testimony shows that grand jury in Florida in 2006 was equally corrupt. The Palm Beach Police Department wanted to indict Epstein immediately on 5 counts of child abuse. But then that case got taken away from them, and it was given to this very corrupt grand jury. And the thing about grand juries in Florida is generally they're only reserved for capital cases. So once this grand jury was called, it was pretty much the fix was in.
All right. So with Jeffrey Epstein, speaking again broadly, the understanding is, that he had his homes under total surveillance, rooms, cameras, microphones everywhere. He'd have the best, most famous people in the world, best, quote unquote, all the right people to his home. They'd hook up with girls, often underage girls. He would record these maneuvers, these happenings, and use the videotape as evidence. Do you believe all that? And not as evidence, as blackmail material. Is that true?
Definitely. Senator John Kennedy brought that up. FBI Director Wray was really, really hammered by him about 3 weeks ago. And he asked Christopher Wray, what are you doing about the Epstein case? He was talking about blackmail, the senator was, and said that Epstein arranged these liaisons with underage girls and filmed them. And Christopher Wray just was completely evasive when asking those questions. And it was very, he used words like had investigated. So I would say it's probably safe to surmise that the FBI really isn't investigating Epstein at this point, just by his body language and by the way that he used his verbs. I definitely don't think that the FBI is investigating this case. And Senator John Kennedy, he was very, very skeptical of Wray's answers.
All right. So, man, oh, man, oh, man. I have always been wondering, though, if you're a rich, powerful person and you find out that Epstein has dirt on you, I would, and you're the type of rich, powerful person who likes underage girls, that you would possibly be the type of person who would kill Jeffrey Epstein the moment you found out he was blackmailing you. And he was doing this for a long time. That kind of surprises me a lot, I guess. But then again, it does really reinforce the whole notion that he was killed, did not commit suicide while he was in jail.
When that grand jury didn't return any indictments of child abuse against Jeffrey Epstein, the Michael Ryder, who is the chief of the Palm Beach Police Department, went to the feds and said, "You've got to investigate this." And Alexander Acosta, the U.S. attorney for Southern Florida, said that he was going to launch an investigation into it. But then he was told, and he's never rescinded this, he was told that he couldn't prosecute Epstein because Epstein was intelligence. And that's what people don't get about this, is that Epstein is a college dropout from Coney Island. He doesn't have any power compared to some of the most powerful men in the world, or certainly in the country. But Epstein has an organization, an entity behind him that makes it known to these guys that if you hurt Jeffrey Epstein, then there's going to be retribution. And since they're blackmailed already, there's nothing they can really do. And Jeffrey Epstein goes about his merry way until he gets way too much publicity, and then it's time for him to go.
And that entity, the entity behind him is what?
According to Alexander Acosta, he was told that intelligence.
Okay.
Epstein was part of intelligence. However you want to interpret that.
Right.
But that's what, and Alexander Acosta has never rescinded that. He's been asked about that a number of times, and he's never rescinded that. He was told that he had to back away from Epstein because Epstein was intelligent.
All right, one other thing now. What about this? Let's see, intelligence. I guess Bill Barr. I don't know. Where does this go? What happened? I mean, what? Now that we know this, I feel like another shoe is about to fall. Is that going to happen?
Well, I don't think it's going to happen with law enforcement. I think that our law enforcement is too corrupt. The special prosecutor that oversaw the Epstein trial, or Ghislaine Maxwell trial, his name is Damian Williams. He carefully choreographed that trial. So there were only 4 victims called, even though law enforcement, or federal law enforcement, was aware of over 30 victims. And those 4 victims had exclusively been molested by Epstein and Maxwell. So they couldn't name other perps. And so you had Bill Barr covering it up.
Yeah.
And then you have the current Attorney General covering it up. And actually the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, which is the most powerful federal law enforcement officer in New York, covering it up.
Where the hell are the media? My God, they are now so complacent and so tamed. They're tamed. They're under control. Let me ask you this. You called Jeffrey Epstein a college dropout from Coney Island. Now, people have written that he was some sort of mathematical genius, and that's why he got the job at the private prep school when he was in his 20s. Was he smart, like a genius smart, or is that all just kind of an intelligence cover? He was just a guy that was useful and that they were using, and all that stuff is make-believe.
That's interesting. About 2 weeks ago, I got some pictures. Epstein was sent to Interlochen Arts Camp, which is in Michigan, northern Michigan. And there's people that are promising artists and musicians are sent there. And Epstein went to the summer camp. Now, and Interlochen cannot deny that Epstein didn't attend that camp because he had put $500,000 up for the Epstein Lodge, which seemingly has been renamed. But there's a picture, I believe, of William Barr, also at Interlaken. And your listeners can go to my website, nickbryantnyc.com, and they can check out this picture I have of William Barr when he was, I believe it's William Barr, and most people believe it's William Barr, when he was a teenager. So it's conceivable that William Barr and Epstein met in 1967, and then 7 years later, in 1974, Barr's father, Donald, hires a college dropout for one of the most prestigious, if not the most prestigious, preparatory schools in the United States of America.
Yeah, that crazy. Now it's gone crazy woke, the Dalton School. Hey, listen, man, I'm on your website right now. Where do I find this picture? I want to see Bill Barr at this summer camp with Jeffrey Epstein. Where is it?
It should be right there. Let me see.
I don't know, man. I'm on the homepage. I don't see it. I see about you. Got to go.
No. Go to the blog.
Yeah, the blog. Okay, the blog, and there it is. There it is. All right, I got to take
now look at those pictures. Does that not look like William Barr?
I got to take a better look. It's on my phone. It's a little bit blurry. The guy with the glasses.
Yes.
The guy with the glasses. And who?
But it made sense that Epstein had some kind of relationship with the Barrs because of him being hired at Dalton.
Well, we know that. Yeah, could be. Wait, I want to one thing, because this guy's got pretty floppy ears. You ever notice that? He's got floppy ears. He's got big earlobes. So maybe Bill Barr does. Does Bill Barr have those earlobes? I'm going to settle this mystery once and for all.
Well, here's the thing with the ears. I used to have big ears, and I grew into my ears. But if you look at his nose and his dimples, they're exactly the same as William Barr.
Yeah.
And I can attest from my own personal experience that I did grow into my ears. And people often grow into their ears.
I hear you. Something very weird is afoot, and Nick Bryant, you are all over it. We thank you. Keep up the amazing work. NickBryantNYC.com. NickBryantNYC.com. Fascinating blog. And this picture, which is on your website right now, may be going ultra viral in the near future. Nick,
let's hope so.
All right. Good luck. Keep us informed.
Okay, Greg.
Thank you very much. See you later. Yeah, I'm looking at this picture. That could be. Now, what does it mean? Yeah, it means that these guys may have known each other for a long time, and we know he had cover. Wow, this is wild. I got to find that Acosta saying intelligence. Now, you know why this thing broke wide open all over again? Like, where did it come from? Epstein had been doing this for years because it was an effort. They knew that they could try to embarrass Trump. Why? Because Trump went with the swamp, and they recommended a U.S. attorney for Secretary of Labor. And that U.S. attorney is the guy who was involved in some of these negotiations with Epstein. His name was Acosta, not Jim Acosta, another Acosta. And the Miami Herald reporter who kind of made this whole case against Epstein, she admitted it. She did it to get Trump. Not that Trump had anything to do with this nonsense, but just that Acosta, right? You can get another cabinet member. Kind of silly, but I'm glad she did it because we're learning a hell of a lot. Be right back.
Greg Kelly. You're listening to the Greg Kelly Show.
Hey, this horrible, the drunk driving incident, we think, in Deer Park. That guy drove his car right into a nail salon, and all the workers there, a number of them killed, including a customer, an off-duty cop, 30-year-old female cop. It's just awful. And I saw the suspect. My God. I mean, that guy looks like, I know he's having a bad day, but man, he looks like a monster. He really looks like a monster. He looks like a serial killer or something like that. He's in the medical gown. James Flippin. Oh boy. How many people did die?
4 people killed,
including the cop.
Yeah. 30-year-old Amelia Renhack, off-duty NYPD officer. She was just married herself. and she was getting done up and ready for another upcoming wedding. Friend of hers.
Nail salon. Yeah, people go, women go and get the pedicure and the manicure. This guy says he had 18 beers.
18 beers.
But not right away beforehand. He said he stopped drinking at like 4 a.m. Is that right? Is that what I saw?
Yeah, well, basically, I guess it's one of those where whatever time he cut it off or stopped drinking or was, waking up from having still been drinking, he was still drunk from the night before.
Oh, wow. Gosh. I mean, and he looks just like, man.
I mean, there was no sign. This is like one of those crazy things, Greg. No sign he hit the brake at all. Like, this was just basically this guy may have been totally blacked out, passed out, and just plowed his car into this nail salon.
Well, there have been cases where people get the brake pedal confused with the gas pedal.
True.
And it went right into the store. You hear about this happening from time to time. It's just terrible. So do we know when the funeral is for the cop? And the workers, by the way, the woman who owned the joint, I mean, oh, gosh, it's just terrible, all of it.
Well, we know that obviously there's, all kinds of vigils and people showing up with candles and flowers and stuff like that. But as far as Renhack, the NYPD officer who was killed, funeral services scheduled for Saturday. There's also a GoFundMe set up for other victims in the case, like you noted.
All right. And a 12-year-old girl was wounded. All right. Well, let's just, I don't want to, yikes, tough stuff. What do you think is going to happen to Biden?
I think he's toast. I don't think he's going to run. I think they're going to replace him. I know you're more of the Michelle Obama mindset, right? Thinking that that's who it's going to be.
Well, yeah, I mean, but we're on the same page. I don't think Biden can make it.
But I think, for whatever reason, I've always thought it's going to be Gretchen Whitmer. I don't know why.
Mean girl from Michigan, not going to happen. She is terrible, absolutely terrible. No one will like her.
But don't you think, like, somebody who's really got prospects, somebody who's got something going for them, like a Gavin Newsom, why would they ride in right now?
Gavin Newsom has something going for him. If you think he's got something going, other than the white teeth and the big hair, that guy is an idiot. He is a really...
But people like that. People like to vote for the big hair and white teeth. Don't you think?
Maybe some Democrats are. I mean, Joe Biden had white teeth, I guess. I don't know. He's very, what's the word? Diaphanous. Okay, you can see right through him. He is something very, we don't want a career politician. It's not going to be him. And also, I don't know. I mean, I don't have a problem with white men, but apparently 40%, 50%, 60%, 70% of the Democrat Party has problems with white men. Got to hear all the time, it's white men this, white men that, old white men. Screw you, young woman of color. I mean, I'm sorry. And by the way, you're not that young. All right, let's say you don't like a 50-year-old guy there, Toots, and she's, I think there's this 20-year-old who's been making noise. So when she's 80, I'll be 110. Okay? So what? We'll be senior citizens at the same time. Don't think you're so young. You're not so young.
It's all relative, right?
Centuries from now, somebody will find a picture of you, and maybe, let's say I'm walking down the street and we're there at the same time. Like, look at those two people.
They're both old.
No, they're just dead. They're both dead. That's all they know. They're both dead. And like the idea that somebody, I saw a picture from like 1890. It was an old man with a young woman. She was like 20. He was like 70, 80, 85, 90, something like that. And I thought back then, wow, the difference in age must have been a big deal to them. But now they're just dust, right? I mean, they're from the same generation.
Yeah, it's true.
Don't make a big deal out of it in any way, shape, or form.
Economists warn that massive tax hikes could devastate your IRA and 401k as the stock market braces for impact. I'm Larry Kudlow, and I urge you to fortify your savings with physical gold with my friends at Priority Gold. To learn how gold and silver can help diversify your savings, please call 1-800-405-GOLD or just visit PriorityGold.com to get a free gold information guide. That's 1-800-405-GOLD.